Hello.
Hello.
Hi. Nice to see everybody.
Thank you for joining. We're just letting everyone get in and we're going to get started here in just a moment.
You're welcome. And I did want to let you know I do have to leave a little early for another appointment at 1 o'clock, but I thought that at least I get to see a little bit of the meeting.
Fantastic. Glad you could join. Okay. We're going to get started. Thank you everyone for joining us today. We really appreciate you coming to this month's Metro Milwaukee event, Metro Milwaukee SHRM event. My name is Shay Sherfinsky. I am the Volunteer Engagement Coordinator and Director for Metro Milwaukee SHRM. I also work for R&R Insurance Services. I'm a benefits consultant there, and I've been part of Metro Milwaukee SHRM for a number of years now. So really excited to be able to have you all here today and on this beautiful Friday and spend some time learning together. So just a couple housekeeping items for all of you as we go through today's program. Please make sure that you are muted. If you do have a question, you definitely can put that in the chat, or if you'd like to kind of raise your hand, certainly can go through and ask the question that way as well. There will be time for question and answer at the end of the program as well. So please just be aware of that. If you lose your connection, please just log right back in with the same link. It should work without a problem for you. After the program, you're going to receive an email with the video recording, handouts and additional resources, and also the information about continuing education credits. And please make sure that you get your phone ready. There are several slides with a QR code. So you utilize your smartphone's camera to be able to utilize the QR code as we go through the program today. And if you could, everyone, just take a minute here to look at the name that you have your screen name on and make sure it's your full name. We do take attendance based on the names on the screen. So if you're utilizing somebody else's login or anything of that sort, if you could just make sure you change it over to your full name so we can take proper attendance, that would be great. And if you called in and are unable to rename yourself, which we understand, just please send an email to the Metro Milwaukee SHRM office. And so they'll get a record of your attendance there. And I'd like to just say thank you to all of our sponsors. We do have annual partners on the gold, silver, and bronze level. And we do like to thank all of them for supporting Metro Milwaukee SHRM. We can't do these type of programmings without their support. So thank you so much for participating and supporting Metro Milwaukee SHRM. And if you are interested, if you're not currently a member right now or a sponsor right now, excuse me, you definitely can become a sponsor. There's information with respects to becoming a sponsor, and it's a great way to reach out to hundreds of HR professionals in the area. So if you're somebody on the call who would be interested in sponsorship information, you can reach out to the Metro Milwaukee SHRM office, and they will be able to provide you information on becoming a sponsor partner. And if you are a member currently of Metro Milwaukee SHRM, thank you so much. We are so appreciative that you are a member of Metro Milwaukee SHRM. So thank you for, having your membership and joining in on programs like this. And if you're not, let's talk. So there's a couple different ways that you can join. If you're an individual, you can join, but you can also join as a corporate partnership as well. So if you're an organization who has multiple HR individuals in your organization and would like to have a corporate partnership, you certainly can. If you are a HR department of one and would like to join Metro Milwaukee SHRM, there's an opportunity to do that on the individual level as well. So again, you can reach out to me or you can reach out to Metro Milwaukee SHRM office directly if you'd like more information on how to join. And just remember that there is also the SHRM National. So it's kind of better together when you have SHRM membership. Your chapter membership along with the SHRM membership can make a really great combination. So if you're interested in learning how to become a SHRM National member, I would encourage you to visit our website on mmshrm.com. They're here to be able to engage with you. We also have our online TradeWing community. So if you have not logged on to TradeWing and done any interacting there, I highly encourage you to do that. There's ways for you to get more information with respects to the National SHRM membership, about the different committees that you could join with Metro Milwaukee SHRM, and then just engage with the community through TradeWing as well. So please make sure that you go and log in there, because you'll also see upcoming events and things of that nature too. Okay, just reminders, if you wouldn't mind sharing your experience today on social media, that would be really fantastic with the tag SHRM. And then you will receive a survey after this. So if you could please just make sure that you complete the survey that you will receive following the program, we'd really appreciate that. Your feedback is very important. Okay, and last, we just want to share with you your 2023-2024 SHRM, Metro Milwaukee SHRM Board of Directors. This information is all included out on the Metro Milwaukee SHRM website as well. Again, as I introduced myself before, I am the Volunteer Engagement Director for Metro Milwaukee SHRM. And Skylar, who will be helping do the panel today, is also somebody who works on our board as well as our Programming and Events Director. And if you're looking for ways to just get more involved, like I said, there is a whole host of committees, all these committees you see on the screen here. There's a great way to get involved, and we're always looking for more people to help volunteer and get involved. So please use the QR code here you see on your screen. You can also reach out to me directly. I'm happy to talk with you about the various committees and introduce you to the different directors that you may be interested, those committees you might be interested in, to learn more. Okay. And please be aware that all of these chapter meetings are recorded. So there is an opportunity to watch the different recordings of past meetings we've had. So please just be aware that there is a recording from last month's monthly membership event. You can go out and get that out on the Metro Milwaukee SHRM website to watch that recording at any time. And there will be a recording of today's presentation as well. And then our whole program schedule is available out on the Metro Milwaukee SHRM website. The second Friday of each month from 12 to 1:30 p.m. we do have our monthly membership meeting event. So please sign up, join, and we look forward to seeing you at future events, both virtual and in person. We are searching for great programs and speakers as well. So if you are ever interested in speaking at an upcoming membership meeting like this, please use the QR code here below to submit your proposal. So I'll just give that a moment just in case you want to be able to get that QR code. But again, we're always looking for people to speak at these monthly membership meetings. So please, download the QR code here and submit your proposal. And if you didn't get the chance to do it before I change screens here, again, you can reach out to the Metro Milwaukee SHRM office or myself. We're happy to help. Okay, so today we have innovative strategies to create a talent pipeline, and I'm going to introduce Skylar File. He's going to introduce our panel to you.
Thanks, Shay, and thank you for everyone who's joined the discussion today. Really excited to moderate a panel, innovative strategies to create unique talent pipeline. We've got a host of panelists who have a diverse experience and creating unique talent solutions for their organizations to help their communities and their organizations to be successful. As Shay shared, I'm Skylar File, and I am the Programming and Events Coordinator for the Metro Milwaukee SHRM. And when I'm not coordinating events, I work as an employee benefit consultant to help my clients solve their most pressing employee challenges in employment. And finding talent is often one of the major challenges that organizations face. So I think this is a great opportunity to hear from some great panelists. Joining the panel today are Jodi Heurong. She's the manager of IT interns and collaboration technologies for North Memorial Health. In addition to Jodi is Jackie Berry. She's with 3M Gives and is a manager of their education initiatives, which is a philanthropic arm of 3M. Also joining are Jim Johnston, and he's the Senior Vice President of Operations and Customer Service at Bradley Company, a Watts brand. And our fourth panelist is Jeremy Jakes. He's a Director of Partner Services for GPS Education Partners. So welcome to all of our panelists, and thank you very much for your participation. Really looking forward to learning about what you're doing for your organizations. I will start with, I'm looking at my screen here, and we'll go ahead and start with Jodi. She's the first person who comes up my screen. Jodi, if you could just tell us a little bit about your role with the company, and then we'll go down the list and we'll work our way across all of our panelists.
Great. Well, first, thank you so much for an opportunity to be a part of this panel. I couldn't be more excited about some of the innovative things that we've been doing at North Memorial Health, and to have an opportunity to share that with some others. I'm currently an IT manager over interns and collaboration technologies at North. And then prior to joining North, I've held positions within the K-12 and corporate training spaces. I've been with North now for about 25 years. A long time. I always kind of half jokingly also say I was born at North Memorial, so it's just meant to be. I've in one way or another spent my entire life here, and during that time, I've had an opportunity to wear many different hats within the organization. Most recently within our IT department, and within the context of that, had an opportunity to design and develop an internship program about 12 years ago now. And I'm very proud to say that by the end of this year, we'll have hosted over 120 IT interns and been able to fill over 60 FTEs through our internship program. And most exciting is that last year, we also expanded our partnership to include GPS Education, who has been able to bring us a lot of really interesting and exciting young talent that we might not have otherwise had an opportunity to connect with. So very excited to share our experience with that.
Great. Thank you, Jodi. Jackie, I'll turn it over to you for a little bit of background about your role with your company.
Yeah, sounds great. So good afternoon, everyone. I'm excited to be here. Thanks so much for the opportunity. And I have to say, it's an absolutely beautiful day in the Twin Cities as well. So I'm with 3M, and within 3M, I work in 3M Gives, which is the philanthropic arm of the company. And our team is really focused on, how can we help advance human progress and deliver a bright future through our social investments, and also the engagement of our employees. One of the things that I have the fortune of managing is our education portfolio. And we're focused on investing in initiatives that will help advance economic equity for underrepresented populations, in particular in STEM and skilled trades. And so we've had the pleasure of working with GPS over the last couple of years to really help us implement our strategy in our plant communities around the U.S. and hopefully around the globe. So, the majority of our budget is focused on STEM and skilled trades education initiatives. Oh no, I'm getting a notice here, but I hope I don't get kicked off. I just got a notice that I had to restart my computer, but I'm crossing my fingers that doesn't happen. And in 2020, we set a goal to support 5 million STEM and skilled trades learning experiences for underrepresented students in STEM and skilled trades by 2025, and we are on track to do that. We're using the National Science Foundation's definition of populations that are underrepresented in STEM. And, our approach to trying to reach this goal is to really inspire interest in the STEM field and skilled trades. Also, we're all looking at initiatives that will help improve academic outcomes in science and math and technology. And then finally, we're investing in those transformative investments that will help students get degrees and certifications. And that's where, GPS has really stepped in to help us make that happen, especially looking in our plant communities. And I'll talk a little bit more about that later on. But that's a quick overview. I've been with the company 27 years. I've worn a lot of different hats in the time that I've been here. I started as a lobbyist and moved into corporate communications, and now I have the pleasure of managing our Community Gives portfolio.
Great. Thank you, Jackie. Jim, I will pass the proverbial mic over to you for a little bit of background with your role within the company.
Mike?
A proverbial mic, just figuratively.
Oh, I'm sorry. Well, anyways, my name's Jim Johnston. I am a retiring senior vice president of Bradley Corporation, located in Menominee Falls. I have been with the organization for 5 years. I have 5 incredible years that ends in 8 days. And one of the passions that I have is development, talent acquisition, and the blessing that I had to come into a 5th-generation family-owned company that just recently got acquired by a publicly traded company, which is Watts Corporation. When I walked in that door and I saw that there was a GPS classroom, a pipeline of talent right there for a very small company, it was very surprising to me. I worked at very large organizations where they had the benefit of the brand. And Bradley, not necessarily nationally known everywhere, a big company, but not necessarily where I came from. I thought that you can't have a better opportunity to have something like that sitting in your company, and how you manage that, how you develop that. It's been up and down. There's been some challenges to it, but the need for that, we have had some plant transitions. We have had plant closures where we're transitioning major products, which require a lot of people. We're currently working on an organic growth program, which has taken us into the Watts Corporation, and we have our eye on acquisition targets going forward. So we can't do all of that without having a very good pipeline. So I'm only involved in this meeting today because of Jeremy and the leadership they have at the GPS operation. I live in Pittsburgh. I'm not enjoying your weather that you have up there today, but I had 5 great years over there, and I'm going to miss it. But I really appreciate what you put together. Looking forward to today's discussion.
Thanks, Jim. The common thread here is, as you've probably heard, is GPS Education Partners. And so I wanted to make sure that we had a representative from the GPS team to provide a little bit of a background about GPS. And so Jeremy, please share a little bit about your role within GPS Partners.
Yeah, thank you. And thank you, Skylar. Skylar and I have run into each other many times at events, and he really was the impetus to get this group together. So thank you for that. GPS Education Partners, we are a 25-year-old nonprofit organization that works with businesses, schools, communities, and most importantly, students to connect them to the careers of today, but more importantly, the careers of tomorrow and of the future. My role within the organization is I oversee and lead our Cornerstone program, which is here in Wisconsin. We call it our Education Center and Youth Apprenticeship Program. Jim and team at Bradley host one of our education centers, as he referenced before. So that's really where this all got started 25 years ago. But we've branched out to really serve, as you've heard already from a couple of our friends in Minnesota, other states and other communities well outside Wisconsin's borders. So I want to give a shout out, first of all, to Jim, of course, for being with us, but Jackie and Jodi as well, and then to Trish as well, who's on our team, and I know she's on the call, but not on the panel. She works more closely with our partners outside the state of Wisconsin, and we certainly would have had her on the panel because she would have been phenomenal, but her name doesn't start with a J, so we had to kind of limit it to the J crew here. So no, but thank you for having us again, Skylar. Excited for the conversation.
Great, thank you. Well, to provide a little bit more context to our audience, I thought it would be helpful if you could share a little bit about, what the talent acquisition situation is within your organization. I mean, do you have an ample and ready pipeline of talent ready to fill all the roles that you need? So maybe you could share briefly a little bit about the talent situations within your organization. Jim, I'll go back to you to start there.
Yeah, we, as I said, we transitioned into Wisconsin, so we have a pretty aggressive plan to get up and running. What we have found, we've had a pretty high attrition rate right now, specific to our growth strategy in that area. Obviously we're having issues with our reliability of the personnel that are coming in. The attitude is probably secondary. And then the third one, which used to be the number one, which would be the aptitude of the individual coming in. We don't necessarily value that as much right now. It's right now, it's 100% down to reliability. It has gotten to a point where the interview process is not just an HR-driven process in our organization. We include a lot of people, including myself, spending some time really trying to understand the people, getting a face-to-face, look me in the eye, I look you in the eye. Hey, here's the problems we're having with our people, with our pipeline talent. Tell me a little bit about how you see yourself in this operation and what are our expectations for you as a person. We're not concerned of getting training into you. We feel we're very confident. We will take our time, probably have a lot more patience with that today than we had years ago. So because of that, we've spent the time. And quite frankly, and I talk very openly and very general, I can't be more disappointed in some of the people that I've specifically talked to that have said, I won't let you down. I know this place has got a good opportunity. I'll be there. And then within the period of time that they're able to break the amount of rules to leave, mainly on attendance, and then they ghost you for an exit interview, it's been disappointing. So we're retooling this a little bit. We are spending a lot more time on the interview process. We understand that because of that, it's demotivating when you spend the time and you say, I felt like we got the right one, and it fails. Then you got to spend the time with your own people saying, look, we got to keep going. You can't quit. So my segue into why the GPS program is much more important than all the other strategies that we have is because we have opportunity to talk to these people for a period of time and spend that time. Now you really know before you get into the key attributes of what you need going forward to get into Bradley. I know that was a little bit long-winded. I'm not trying to be negative. I think we're all facing that specific to operations, but you can't quit. You just got to stay with the program. You got to maybe take time and invent more opportunities and other groups, spend time out there, not just with GPS, but you better have a wide net of opportunity.
Absolutely. Thanks, Jim. Jackie, maybe you could share a little bit about, as it relates specifically to the STEM field and that very ambitious goal to engage 5 million. How does that fit into the overall talent strategy at 3M?
Yeah, that's a really good question. One of the things that we're looking at is how do we use our philanthropic dollars to, really help build, we like to call it a strong ecosystem for students going into the STEM and skill traits areas. So, as we were looking at our overall strategy as a company, we wanted to be in the space where we were uniquely positioned to make a difference. And we're a science-based company, we're a manufacturing company. So it really seemed to make a lot of sense for us to focus on, how do we build that strong talent pipeline, not just for 3M, but overall, because I think we're all kind of facing the same challenges. So how do we make these investments? And that's when I talked a little bit about, our approach. We start early with students, looking at how do we inspire student interest. Then we look at, how do you improve their academic outcomes? Because, students or anyone, no one wants to participate in something when you're not doing well. And then finally, what do we need to do to help you get to that next step, get a degree, get a certification, or move into, the next phase of life? And one of the things, from a philanthropic standpoint, it's really about advancing economic equity. These jobs pay well. They're growing at a faster rate, and we know that we need to get more students engaged. And, one of the things that GPS brings to the table is just this expertise in that space. How do you make this happen? We talk all the time about jobs of the future. So we want to be a part of those conversations with community colleges and high schools to talk about, here are the skill sets that students will need. And here's how 3M can use their philanthropic dollars to invest in programs that will help train students. And, at the end of the day, we'd love for them to come and work for us, but we also know that there's a greater good out there. We're going to hopefully send them off to do a lot of other things. So, a part of our philanthropic strategy is tied to human capital planning, but, in the bigger picture to say, we want to help all students kind of reach their goals. And the other thing that we recognize too in our focus on equity is that there are a lot of students that aren't engaged in this work. I mean, they don't know about it. So how do we increase awareness of these jobs, break down some of the stigmas around, working in a manufacturing plant. So how do we do that? And I think that's one of the strategies that we have with GPS. We're not only going in and providing dollars, but we're giving students access to our plants, for plant tours, or access to our people to talk about their career journey, to talk about how they got to this space and why it's working so well for them and their families. And I'll stop there because I think I could go on all day, but
no, that's really grateful and really inspiring, and I appreciate that take. Jodi, for you, one of the things you mentioned, I think, is that it sounds like, and maybe I misheard, but it sounds like you have about 50% conversion of folks who were interns to becoming full-time employees through your internship program. And so that's really exciting to hear. But maybe tell us a little bit about what the talent situation looks like for you at North Health and some of the challenges that you guys are experiencing.
I'm glad to go third on this question because I think that Jim and Jackie, they covered so many of the things that I was also going to talk about, which I think is important to know that we're all kind of experiencing these same sort of challenges. So from our perspective, harkening back to what Jim had said, 12 years ago, we recognized exactly what Jim talked about. It wasn't that we were having a hard time finding people back then, it was finding the right people. Everybody looked great in a 20-minute interview and on a resume, but it wasn't until they walked in the door and you started to spend some time with them that all of a sudden you started to find out all of these other more core things. It wasn't about the technical skills. It was, did they show up on time? Were they able to handle conflict if something didn't go well? And really more of those human or employability skills. So from our perspective, I guess a way to boil it down for us, it was kind of a way to try before we buy, to really have an opportunity to get to know folks, and as importantly, for them to get to know us. Maybe the North culture isn't really going to be a fit for them. And so it's much better to be able to have an opportunity to get to know each other a little bit before we move into some of those things. And then reflecting on Jackie's comments, one of the other things that has been a challenge is that many times some of these amazing future workers, because of their circumstances, you may not even have an opportunity to connect into them if you don't have the proper conduits. And that's really where GPS has been incredibly helpful for us. We had been doing some of those things more independently. We, meaning I, was really working as I was developing our IT internship program. But what was really frustrating was we believed we'd found the secret sauce. We'd found what we needed to do. We knew where the gaps were. We knew how to solve those gaps, but it wasn't scalable because there was only so much of me. And so when GPS came in, all of a sudden we were able to exponentially scale things because they had all of those contacts in. They became an integral part of our recruiting effort. And because they took the time to develop a relationship with North as an organization, to get to know us, to understand what it was that we were looking for, what were our mission, vision, and values, they could really go out and working with those schools help to identify the students that really appeared like they were going to be a really good fit, and then to have the opportunity for me to be able to talk to those students and then make our selection process from that perspective. So again, our relationship with GPS has just been incredibly helpful in regard to scaling things and reaching out and connecting with those students that we might not otherwise have been able to. And for that matter, who may never have found their way to any kind of post-secondary education or even into an organization that could help them grow without having that connection between the student and the organization.
Yeah. Thank you, Jodi. Jeremy, as an organization, you guys get to see a lot of different perspectives with the different organizations that you work with. And, Jodi mentioned the right kind of people, and, Jim and Jackie did as well. A little facetiously, are you finding just all the valedictorians and then funneling them to the organizations? I know that's not the case, but maybe share a little bit about, how you identified those folks and really how those folks may be, underrepresented or, maybe not have a career path defined for them because they're just not in a position to understand what that could look like.
Yeah, great question. So obviously no valedictorians I don't think have ever come through certainly our local program here, but even I think through a lot of our programming that we support outside Wisconsin. Although we do occasionally have students who, academically were in really good shape. I think though in general, regardless, our students that we find and align to our business partners are students who are sometimes overlooked by the traditional education system for one reason or another, sometimes not. And they are hungry for the world of work, I think would be a way that I would describe them, regardless of where they come to us from, and regardless of which program they end up into. I share this story a lot, and I think Trish has probably heard it. Trish and I share not only being leaders within the organization, but also both were former high school business teachers. So once upon a time, this is a long time ago, I taught high school business, and I remember my very first day in teaching. I came in and I had printed out business cards for all the students because I was the business teacher, and they had their picture on it. I got it from the class roster. It had their name, it had their title, student, and I handed it out to them as they walked in the door. And they got to take it to their desk, and then when they left the door, they would check out and hand it to me. So it was supposed to mimic the real world of like punching in and punching out to work. But inevitably, as the days and weeks went on throughout the semester, it lost its, they were super excited the first few weeks, but it lost its meaning because I could not replicate what the real world provides for young people, which is a real paycheck, a real boss, a real deadline, a real ability to engage with the culture at work. I couldn't do that in a traditional classroom environment. And I missed that. I wanted that because I had come from the business world before I taught high school business. And I think that's what work-based learning does, regardless of what a student's background is it opens up the opportunity for them to, I think Jodi mentioned it before, from the business side, to try a student on for size. For the student, they're trying the business on for size as well and seeing if it's a fit or not. So I think that's really at the core of what work-based learning does for all of our partners.
Great, thank you. Just as a housekeeping reminder, if you have questions, feel free to drop them in the chat. As I go through, I'm happy to incorporate questions in what I have. I've got I'm only through my first 3 of about 15 to 20 questions here, so I've got a lot to but this panel is really, for you as our SHRM membership. So if you have some specific questions as I'm going through, feel free to drop them in the in the chat, and I'll address them for the panel as we go. I guess the next question, you guys are all with, fairly substantial organizations. It sounds like there's a lot of different initiatives from a talent standpoint that you've had in place, that you have in place currently. But, what led to the initial partnership with and, maybe share how that journey, has first started and where you're at, how long you've been working with them, curious as well. Jackie, I'll start with you.
Okay, that sounds great. So I'll give you a little background on the 3M MAP program. So about 5 years ago, 3M Gives partnered with our engineering department to launch a program called the Manufacturing Academic Partnership Program. And the intent of that program was to help develop talent in our plant location. So 3M has manufacturing facilities, I want to say, in more than 50 communities. Trish probably has a number right off the top of her head, but at any rate, you can correct me if I'm wrong, Trish, but more than 50 communities. And we're in small communities. And so oftentimes it's really hard to retain people in those smaller communities. So what we were trying to do, especially in those areas where we were having a hard time, finding talent, we decided to go in and make investments to help develop some of the talent in that community, hence the 3M MAP program. So the way MAP works is that 3M will sit down with local high schools and community colleges and talk about not just 3M, but other leaders from industry, and talk about, jobs of the future. What is it that we need from a talent standpoint, and what types of investments need to be made in order to make that happen? And so that's the initial conversation. The second part of this piece is, okay, well, what types of investments do we need? Do we need equipment in the community colleges or in the high school to make this happen? What does the curriculum look like? So we added in a partnership with Festo to help with the curriculum and also the equipment. And then the other piece that we're looking at too is, how do we engage with students? What are the mechanisms that we have in place to bring students into a 3M plant and let them take a tour and see what it's like to work there, or to have 3Mers go into the schools and talk about their careers? We have a program that we've had for more than 50 years called Tech Talks, where 3Mers, really started here in the Twin Cities, would go into schools and talk about their careers, and students would have an opportunity to really find out. So what does a mechanical engineer do? What does a chemical engineer do? So making those connections. And then the other piece we've added in are scholarships. So once, students are graduating and they decide, yeah, I really want to go on and pursue this credential, we then work with the community colleges to provide scholarships. So this program got up and going 5 years ago, and we had a person assigned to us to work on this in engineering, and he would go out to all of those sites and make sure that everything happened. Well, he ended up leaving 3M And it was still a program that was incredibly viable, and we wanted to continue it. And I've been in discussions with Trish from GPS, and all of a sudden she's like, I think we could help you with this. And so you talk about scalability, Jodi. I mean, they really come in and helped us scale this program. And then they brought discipline around it. I mean, we kind of had a playbook. I mean, we knew what we were doing, but they knew all of the right people to bring to the table to do the planning. And they're really helping us with our execution. So, the development and the execution, getting the voice of the community in this process. So it's been just a phenomenal program for us, and probably something that we could not have continued if it hadn't been for the partnership with GPS. So we've been working with them. I think we're getting close to our third year now. So yeah. Sorry, guys. You might have to cut me off at some point. You just give me the signal. We'll say, stop talking, Jack.
No, I appreciate that. Jodi, I think you shared a little bit about, the partnership, but when did that first start and how did you first get connected with GPS?
Oh, goodness. Like Jackie, I think it's probably been 3 years since our first conversation with GPS, where they were floating the idea what they could bring to the party. And of course, then the wheels started turning and those sorts of things. And again, one of the things that was really exciting for me was the connections that they had, the conduit that they had. I had been trying to get into some of the high schools for some time and just wasn't able to do it. We already had a very successful program going with the colleges, but we knew that there was a greater opportunity, that if we could tie in earlier in that career continuum, right? Starting with school and as they're working their way through their education, getting out into the workforce, that was going to be better, frankly, for everybody. But weren't able to do that. So it's probably been about 3 years now since that first conversation. And interestingly, it was really by chance that we ended up getting tied in with GPS. Somebody knew somebody who knew somebody who knew about what our internship program was. And they said, you should talk to this person. And the rest is history. So it's just really been wonderful. And echoing what Jackie has said, we had a plan, we had a program, but working with GPS has brought a whole new level of structure around it, which has been incredibly helpful. I think we can all identify with not having enough hands. And so this incredible gift when all of the sudden GPS came in and we had this conversation and they said, yeah, we can do that. Wow, okay, let's do it. So it was just this gift of suddenly increasing my staff exponentially without necessarily having to bring people on the payroll and all of those sorts of things. So we got all the benefits of having all of those added people on the team, but we're able to do it by means of a partnership.
Sure. And it sounds like, that's not a one size fits all among our panelists. I know, Jim, I think you guys are using a different strategy at Bradley with the education on site, where you're providing alternative education. Could you share a little bit about what that looks like at Bradley? And Jeremy, feel free to to comment on that as well, because I know it looks a little bit different with each company, what the needs look like and how you're doing that, Jim.
Yeah, I wish I could take credit for having the vision to have that in that small company, but that vision came about 15-20 years ago. I think the previous owner, which just recently passed away, Don Mullet, he had a vision that was related mainly to the retirements that he saw coming over a 5 to 10 year period of time that he knew was going to continue. So that was really the main driver at the time for the investment that we made into that. And like I said, it's been a little bit rocky. And sometimes in a smaller company that we are, it takes a toll when it's not working well, and everybody wants to dwell on what's not working and lose sight of why we're blessed to even have it there and continue to work it. I think probably what I've seen in my last 5 years, and I feel it's at the strongest level that it is right now, because not only is, what the GPS team, they have their responsibilities and they want to see the success and they would love it to be in your company. So what is it that you have to do as a company to make that better? So for me, the teachers and the leaders in those classrooms, that's number one. What's going on in there? How are they teaching? How are they talking to them? So what's Bradley's responsibility? What is our responsibility to make that successful? we got to really put our best people in there and help just from a general perspective. We'll put some mentors in front of these people and understand what does it take to be a great employee and to be successful long-term. And you can use the GPS conduit to make that happen. So we're starting to share the success stories that we have. Maybe the percentage isn't large, but the ones that have come through that program, through that classroom, they're our best. They're our absolute best employees that we have. So maybe the numbers aren't good, but if we share that and then have those people go in there and speak to the kids and say, look, this can happen for you, but you also own it, right? You have to be participatory on the long-term goal. And then the last thing, and we haven't really been able to accommodate this yet officially, is I think you got to meet the parents. Not the movie, but you got to meet the parents. So I've attended the ceremonies, and I think at their graduations, I've spoken at a couple of them. If you're sitting there as an employer, potential need of talent, and you're sitting in that room, you feel the energy of the success of that program. If you don't feel that, I mean, it's emotional that when you come through there and you're successful and you get one of those kids, now you're blessed. That doesn't mean you get them all, but at the end of the day, the entire, let's call it the United States, needs this program, that needs this for manufacturing going forward. So even if we don't get the benefit of Bradley, that does not necessarily mean it's not successful for the long term. So I can't say enough good things about it.
Yeah, thank you, Jim. I think I'd add, if I could, Skylar. So a couple things. Well, Jim certainly didn't start the program because it was in existence well before he joined Bradley. He has been a huge champion. And I do think, especially for the Education Center and Youth Apprenticeship Program, which is so high touch, these young people are in these buildings every single day. Some of them come from challenging backgrounds who didn't have access to something like this if not for this program. But if not for Jim and other champions within his team, you need that. You need to have people who are believing in the bigger purpose, not just from a immediate ROI. Is this going to immediately impact my business? Because it can in those cases, certainly it can, but sometimes it kind of depends. We're preparing people for their future, young people for their future. And we hope that many and most of them will stay at the business that they worked at, no question, while they're in the youth apprenticeship program. But not all of them do, because they might find that manufacturing is not for them or automotive is not for them. But having that long-term vision is so important. So we really seek out partners who are able to kind of see beyond the short term and look at this as an investment. Yes, of course, in the future of their talent, their industry, but also in the future of young people more broadly, and communities just at large. And that's really how the program has, 25 years now, we've been doing this in Wisconsin and Southeast and Northeast Wisconsin, and it's impacted 1,400 young lives. And Jim, as he mentioned, came to several of those graduation events, which are super powerful, and he spoke at several of the events. In fact, the plant manager at one of the plants that Jim oversees just spoke from Bradley, just spoke at the one we had in May. And he came up to me afterwards and just said, "Thanks so much for having me. It's a great experience." And he said something that I still remember. He said, I used to think about this as a manager of a plant as, what can these young people do for us? What can they do for me? And he said he's shifted over the years to what can we do for them to invest in these young people. And I think that was just a really, really profound thing to hear from Nate, as he's kind of reflected on his journey being a part of the program for many years as well.
Thanks, Jeremy. We've got a question from one of our attendees that I'll get to next, but just I want to follow up because I kind of heard a thread of this in each of your responses. But engaging different stakeholders, and so what stakeholders are you engaging to make these different programs that GPS has partnered with at these organizations successful? Jeremy, this is a question for you. Who are the different stakeholders? Because it's relevant, I think, beyond just the GPS model of what's going to help our employers be successful in recruiting talent, and through your program, what have you found has made it really successful? And who are the key stakeholders? It's the education system. It's not, Jim said the parents. Like, who are those stakeholders you're engaging? Oh, you're muted, Jeremy.
Unmute. Thank you. We oftentimes refer to it as the work-based learning ecosystem, which by definition means it's diverse and lots of different players involved. So I guess I'll start with the school side. Within K-12 systems in particular, we primarily focus on high schools and middle schools, just because that's the age that students are able to start to get their head around What do I want to do with my life? What careers might be interest to me? And high school is probably the biggest sweet spot within that group. Within a high school and within a school district system, there's a few key people. One would be building administrators, so principals, assistant principals, folks like that, who can help to make decisions, but are still close enough to the students to be able to understand how this could directly impact them. School district level administrators is very, very important too, because they oftentimes have the final decision-making ability on things like if there's a financial investment, for example, from the school district, a superintendent oftentimes needs to be bought in and buy in on it. Technical college systems are super important. I think Jackie mentioned them, particularly for our 3M project, are very, very important to engage with. In the business side, HR people, this is a great audience for us, of course, because you're responsible for the talent of your organizations. HR leaders, company leaders, operations leaders like Jim, of course, very important. But then, particularly within our Youth Apprenticeship and Education Center program, we do also engage very closely, since it's a very high-touch program, directly with folks on the individual shop floor, whether that's manufacturing, automotive, or construction. Those are the three primary industries, at least in Wisconsin, within this program that we work within. And we need to have people who directly interact with students who are bought into this vision, because they're the ones who are going to be sharing their knowledge with the next generation. So we're really intentional. We have trainings that we go through with our partners to be able to get them up to speed. Even things that are kind of fun, like how to work with Generation Z and the fascinating things that they bring to the workforce. So we train them on those sorts of things as well.
Great, thank you. Anything for the other panelists? Anything to add to that question of key stakeholders? All right. Well, I'll just quickly turn to this panelist question related to some of our earlier discussion. This panelist or this audience member asked about whether you find it somewhat risky to engage with entry-level folks through a longer process. They mentioned that sometimes if you don't act quickly, they may find another job and they're maybe not willing to be patient. So can you speak to how you balance that desire for a quick response from some of the younger workforce with the engagement that you try to go through in the hiring process? Jodi, I'll start with you.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a great question. And I can share what I do. And I'm sure that others have their own special way that they do that. But for me, one of the first things that I do is I allocate about an hour when I'm going to meet with these students. And thankfully, GPS has already kind of culled it down to a small group for me. So it's not a huge investment on my time. And recognizing that these are young people, this may be their first time that they've had an interview. They don't really know what's going on. They're very they're anxious about all of these things. So I usually start my interaction with them by trying to kind of disarm all of that and put that aside. And so I talk to them a little bit. We say our hellos and those kinds of things. We sit down in the conference room, scary location to be sitting. And I just start with interviews can be kind of scary. So let's not think of this as an interview. Let's just think of this as an opportunity for us to get to know each other. And that completely changes the tone of things. And then I just manage expectations with them. They haven't been through the process. And whether you're a student or Joe or Jane off the street, we know it sometimes takes a little bit of time to get through the interview process. And as candidates are interviewed and those kinds of things. So I just put a lot of emphasis into trying to manage expectations, make sure that they understand this is how the process works. It's probably going to be a week before you hear anything, and just constantly making sure that I'm managing those expectations. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me. And so I'm generally in touch with those people, with those students in some form or another, even if it's just a quick email saying, here's the status on things. You should be hearing from us within X amount of time, or they'll reach out to me. So I haven't found a situation up to this point, including with my college students. So even let's take the GPS relationship off the table here. Generally speaking, communication is key. So long as they know that you're engaged, I haven't encountered situations where I've lost potential candidates because they found something else.
Thank you. Jim, anything to add there?
Yeah, this is probably outside of the GPS interview process. This is probably more on the other strategies that we use. Well, we went down the rabbit hole trying to speed it up and the threat of losing them to other industries that are growing around the area, specifically the ones with the bigger brands. That's where we struggle a lot. It's probably a lot cooler to be part of a Harley Davidson and Milwaukee Tool, and we have some pretty tough competition. So the time that we spend is we talk to them, but we really spend time talking about our culture. And we have a really cool area that's located real close to the GPS classroom, and it's a commons area, and everybody gets together. There's free coffee, there's free soft drinks, there's vending machines, there's pool tables, stuff that you don't necessarily see maybe in other organizations, but we have that. And they have a lot of people coming together, whether it be an office administrative type of individual, a plant floor, everybody congregates. So we show them that. And it's not really a show because it happens all day long, probably too much, to be quite honest with you, from an operations perspective, but it is something where we're a very flexible operation, and we sell that as part of our plan. And if that doesn't get them, and it's really about the 25 cents here or 50 cents there, we're going to lose them anyways. So we spend more time talking about our culture. We don't really try to speed it up anymore because we went down that hole, and yeah, we were putting offers out there, and within a period of time, they were leaving anyway. So I wouldn't say we don't have a strategy other than just sell ourselves, our culture, and then what is it you want to do, and do you see it when you take a plan to it? So that's it.
Yeah. Jackie, anything to add on that topic?
Sorry. No, not really. I guess I'm not as familiar with our TA acquisition process, so we don't have much on that.
Okay, fair enough. I think that's really helpful insights. Another question just came in, but I'll come back to that one here in just a second. I'm curious, Jeremy, this is a question, a question for you. I've lost my train of thought here, apologize. Sorry. I guess for, for each of the panelists, I'll come back to the question, Jeremy, I got to find my note here.
Yeah, no
but
problem.
For each of the panelists, when you bring in, someone particularly, maybe who wouldn't have historically been a traditional fit within your organization, when you look at them from education or experience standpoint through one of these, whether it's a GPS program or one of your other initiatives, what impact does it have on the culture of your organization? Jackie, is that something that you can comment on?
Can you ask that one more time? I'm sorry.
Yeah, no problem. Whether it's a GPS program or some of your other talent acquisition programs that are, maybe reaching some of the underserved communities, what impact has that had on the culture of your organization?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I think I would say that I think it's been really good for the culture. It's really gotten, I think our process has gotten 3Mers engaged. So they're a part of the process of helping to build this pipeline talent by meeting with students, talking to students, and putting that face, if you will, of the company in front of the student. So I think it's been great from that standpoint. I will add that I think one of the things that GPS has brought to the table, outside of, hiring traditional students, we're now looking at where can we get kind of those more seasoned employees or people who might be unemployed or underemployed that wouldn't necessarily fall into the high school or the community college pipeline, if you will. So how do we engage them? So I think looking at how do we reach out into the community a little bit more. And I just wanted to add that might not be relevant to this, but again, bringing new ideas to the table and new ways for us to try to tap into talent, not necessarily just looking at the school pipeline.
Jodi, anything to add on that topic? Oh, you're on mute, Jodi.
Let's start with that. Again, I think that so much of what we hear, it's exciting to hear that we're all kind of having those same experiences about trying to draw in from a diverse group of people, and whether they're coming in through GPS or other avenues, I think we're all focused on those same things. One of the things that I'm always really excited about hearing when we bring people in, people, meaning again, however it is that they may come in at North is, you know, they talk about, gosh, I don't think I've ever worked with such a diverse group before. And that's really exciting for them because, you know, they say, I've been in other places and I didn't really feel like I belonged there. I feel like I belong here. I see other people who look like me. I see people who have similar stories or stories that are completely different than mine. And through that richness of diversity, everybody kind of, you know, finds their place. And I think, you know, Jim really touched on it as well. We sell culture. That's what it's about at North Memorial. We try and again, that's part of that interviewing, is letting people get to know who we are and what we stand for. And for some people, it's going to resonate and they're going to go, wow, I didn't even know that this was available. And for other people, they might look at that and say, ugh, that's not really what I'm looking for. Either way, that's a win. You know, if we're able to open people's eyes and opportunities up to something they may not have considered, that's fabulous. Or if we've been able to give them more insight into what this is so that they can say, maybe that's not for me, that's also a win, so that we can at the very least help them to bring into better focus what it is that they might be looking for their future.
Great. Jim, anything else to add from the Bradley perspective?
Yeah, I'm probably going to say something not sure it's totally related to the question, but I'm going to throw it out there anyways. We have not been very successful at all with a passive looker. Somebody would leave a comfortable operation. Maybe they're a little underemployed where they are, but at least they're stable. So we haven't really been successful tracking that in. I think it's because we don't have the bigger brand. And I don't want to keep saying that as an excuse. You just got to find something else. So we went back to what was successful in the past was the employee referral program, and we incentivized that. We've had some good success because the employee that's obviously recommending, you already know about them. So you're thinking they're going to give you exactly what they are to a degree. That's gotten us a percentage. We right now, the numbers that we need, it really is inside of this space that we're speaking of today. And it really is in the youth, the high schools, the programs like GPS, WTCA, I think it is. I don't remember exactly what their acronym is. We're really tapping into that, and we're really trying to, you know, optimize those three because we believe that's where we're going to get the numbers. We don't think that we're going to get people to leave a really good company to come to what they think could be a really good company. And I say that because they don't really ask the right questions when they come. Like if I was leaving a company to come to another company, you want to know what is the strategy? What's the 5-year plan? Where do you see yourselves? If not, they're just jumping for 25 cents or 50 cents. And yeah, we really don't want to go down that path. So if they're willing to listen to the strategy, we got a good one. It's a growing, moving operation. It's been there for over 100 years. We got to sell our store. We just got to get a chance to do it.
Yeah, great. Thank you. Jeremy, I found my note here. So, you know, our panel's representative, you know, perception of very large, you know, well-funded organizations. And so, you know, from a scale standpoint, you know, how small can we go? We've got probably some folks who are attending who come from small organizations, maybe limited in resources financially in particular to implement this program. You know, what does this look like for maybe some smaller employers, smaller than Bradley, probably being the smallest on the panel?
Yeah, absolutely. So we partner with businesses as small as 25 to 50 employees up to very, very large multinational companies like 3M, for example, and many, many in between. So I think the biggest thing is an interest in getting engaged in the youth of your community and giving them an opportunity to be exposed to your company and your culture. Obviously, it looks different in a large company than a small company because of things like the financial pieces and other things. But I will say that across all of the different ways that we deliver both our, you know, our managed program here in Wisconsin, but also the services that we provide for organizations in Minnesota, Illinois, et cetera, around the country, the one thing that is the same, I think, is these businesses want to connect to their local schools. And sometimes they don't know how to do that. And I think that's where GPS said, you know, we're not a large organization ourselves. We're a nonprofit with maybe 46, 47 employees, just to give you a perspective on how many employees we have. But we specialize in this work. We know work-based learning well. We know education well. We know business well. And most importantly, we know the connection between those two worlds and how to speak the language on both sides. I sometimes describe it as we're almost like a matchmaker for jobs, rather than for love, we're for matching young people into their careers in the future. And I think that's the secret sauce that we've been able to do. And again, it's built on a quarter century of expertise, Trish, for example, started as an instructor in our education center program years and years ago. And her expertise was built and honed through all the time that she spent doing that work and learning work-based learning, and now is doing the great work in Minnesota and many other states outside our border as well. I hope that answered that well.
No, it was very good. In closing here, you want to be respectful of time, and we may lose a handful of participants here at the top of the hour. But as we wrap up, I guess, if you could sum up the importance of, kind of the key point of what the program has meant to your organization, the one takeaway that, people leaving could say, if we could do this one thing within our organization, whether it's with GPS or as we, try to attract a unique talent for our organization, maybe share that one key point. Jim, I'll start with you.
I would go back to my original point. You got to spend the time. You got to spend the time, get to know the individual. And if it takes a little bit longer, so be it. And then give them a real good access to your people. And then when you surround them with the access of people, because those people that they're looking into the eyes, it was them back in the day. They all come from challenges. Everybody's got a story. Give them that story. Don't just talk about, I went promoted from here to here to here. Well, how did you really get there? Talk about some of the failures to get the success. Be open and real. Don't just talk the company jargon. Just give them real life experiences. And they don't always have to be about business. Talk about, and that's what our mentors do. Talk about themselves. How did they get there? And then they start to see, oh, this is probably real. Don't worry about the piece of paper. Don't worry that you can't turn a screwdriver to the right. We will figure that out. And we will take the time to do that. And if you invest that time, it's a long game. It's 100% the long game. If you're in it to win it within a month, you're probably going to lose.
Awesome. Jackie? Oh, yeah, I think you went back on mute.
Okay, yeah, they're good. I agree with you, Jim. I think you definitely have to look at the long-term strategy. And I think one of the advantages that we have in 3M Gives and supporting this work is that we can start early with young people. Really start, at I would even say the kindergarten level, getting them interested and excited about STEM, and then being there as they kind of progress through their educational career, connecting them with 3Mers that can tell the story. That we often say you can't be something that you can't see. And so I think it's so incredibly important to make those connections. And, I want to do another shout out to GPS and helping us do that. I mean, that's one of the things that the value that they're helping us with, really getting in with our plant managers and ensuring that people are going out into the community and talking to students about these various careers. So.
Jodi?
I think if there was one thing I could offer is just simply stated, work-based learning works. And I think for a lot of people, it can feel overwhelming. Oh, how do I start this? And it sounds like it's going to be so much work. And how do we do this? And there are all of these barriers. And it's not as hard as you think. It really isn't. I mean, the guidance that I always give to people is really all you have to do is care. That's all you have to do. If you're willing to open your heart and open the doors to your organization, to somebody who, like Jim and Jackie, like we've all been talking about, who is excited, who's engaged, who wants to learn. If you have it within you to just care and spend some time with that person, that's all you need. And having a partner like GPS, they can help with the lift on everything else and finding who that student is and making sure that they get the right person into your organization. So again, we've been doing this for some time, and it truly has been a game changer. It is the long game, but what you get back for the investment, it's priceless. You're setting yourself up for succession planning. You're creating engagement within your organization. Engaged people stay. They stay because they feel valued, because they feel that they're making a contribution, because they get the chance, perhaps at some point, to now be the mentor for the next person who's coming in and to share their story and to pay it forward to the next person. So a lot of narrative there that boils down to it works, do it.
Thank you, Jodi. Jeremy, I'll give you kind of last thoughts on, as you guys work with a lot of different organizations, primarily in some of our target areas, right, where our community, the folks on this discussion are located here in southeastern Wisconsin primarily. What are the keys to success, that you guys see with the best programs out there?
Yeah, I think I'll piggyback on what Jodi said. It's so much about getting the business to understand that they're investing in the next generation and reminding them that once upon a time they were a young person themselves going through the challenges of middle school, high school, post-secondary education paths, etc. And many of our businesses have employees who work, if they're in manufacturing on the shop floor, who have kids themselves, and kind of reminding them of that, just so that they can get past. Sometimes we do run into, especially kind of, we grew up through the manufacturing industry in particular. There's a stigma about, you got to earn it to make it. And I kind of like challenging them on that front, so that they understand that in order for our businesses to continue to be healthy in the future, we have to invest in the next generation of workforce. And then just a real quick, I loved how Jodi said the pay it forward thing. This program started here in Wisconsin, as I talked about, through our Cornerstone program, and now it's across the country, which is awesome, doing great work. Our very first class of students through our Education Center program, there was a graduate, his name was Joe, who went through the program, and he had his life changed by this program and getting involved in the world of work. And he's doing exactly what Jodi described. He is now mentoring current students at one of the largest manufacturers in the world, Komatsu. You've probably all heard of Komatsu before. So those sorts of stories are why we do what we do on our team at GPS Ed. So on behalf of Trish and myself, thank you for everybody who's been with us. And thanks to all the panelists for being with us and your partnership as well.
Yeah, thank you, Jeremy. We do have time for a couple quick questions, so feel free to drop any questions in the chat or unmute yourself and ask the question directly. But just want to provide an opportunity to address any questions here on this topic. All right, I'll give another couple seconds here, but not seeing anything in the chat right this moment. Shay, I'll hand it back over to you. If any questions come in, maybe we'll try to address them. But I know you got a couple wrap up thoughts.
Great, thank you so much. So if no questions for our speakers at all, we really just want to say, please make sure that you give us your feedback. You can use the QR code here on the screen. We really do thank you so much for attending today. And again, thank you to our panelists and for Skylar for helping moderate. Really appreciate y'all coming in on a Friday on this gorgeous day. Well, for those of you who are around here and taking time out of your day. So again, unless you have any other questions, again, if you could just utilize the QR code and provide your feedback, we'd really appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone.
Yeah.